Message to all the single folks. If you're out there meeting people at the bars or on your dating apps or whatever, and somebody asks you to go out and get a bite to eat, make them clarify that for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below that'll give you a pretty good sense of what the Horror Movie Syllabus is all about. Generally, we look at a particular subgenre of horror, and then we pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore, but not today, because today we're doing our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series. This is where I take a recommendation from you guys, something that you've left me in the comments to one of my other videos, something that I haven't seen before, and I check it out for the very first time. I take a look and see if it's syllabus worthy. Is it good enough to make it for the horror movie syllabus? And today, the movie that we're looking at is called Bones and All. And Bones and All is recommended by Chris Price. Chris Price has given us quite a few recommendations, and the last recommendation was good. So the thing about Bones and All is I did know a little bit about it. I had heard of it because it's a fairly recent movie, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't know much about it. And so all I had to go on was really what Chris had put in the comment. And he had left this in the horror romance video. So it's already kind of a clue that it's a horror romance. But Chris went on to tell us that the relationship between the characters is the main focus of the movie, but that it gets, quote, icky in places. And I loved that. That's a good tease, Chris. That's a great way to get me interested in this movie. And I was already interested in it because there was some buzz when this movie came out, like, 2 years ago? There was some buzz for this movie, but I didn't realize that it was a horror movie exactly. I thought it was really something more of a drama. And maybe it is, and we're going to get into that as we talk about the movie. But it's an interesting thing because I missed the hype on this one, but there was some hype on it, and so I'm coming late to the party, and I really don't know what I'm going to get about that. Like, I don't have any spoilers when I went in. So did I love it? Did I hate it? Well, let's find out. Like I said, the movie we're talking about today is Bones and All. Bones and All came out in 2022, so a very recent movie, and is directed by director Luca Guadagnino, the Italian director who has done the Suspiria remake, which I absolutely loved, surprisingly loved, and also did Call Me By Your Name, which I absolutely hated, couldn't stand it. So had no idea how this could go with Luca because I loved one movie, hated the other one, could go either way, but it had so much positive buzz going for it that I was, expecting it to be pretty good. And so, was it? Well, if you haven't seen it before, the movie is about a young girl who finds out that she has cannibalistic tendencies. She's a high school girl who realizes she has these appetites, and as a result runs away from home to try to find her estranged mother and try to get some background on why she is the way she is. And along the way, she starts to meet others of her kind, people who are like her, including a really handsome young man that may be a potential love interest, but he also has a past of his own that's kind of mysterious and potentially dangerous. And of course, hijinks abound as they try to go across the country and explore their lives and try to stay out of trouble. And we'll leave it there so it's not spoil anything for anybody. But the thing about Bones and All is that it really is a horror romance in the truest sense of the word. It's got a horrific premise of cannibalism, but it also is focusing on this road trip love story that absolutely works. And it works in no small part because of your lead actors. Taylor Russell is playing your lead girl, and I recognize her from Escape Room. She's done quite a few things, but Escape Room was the thing I recognize her from. And I liked her in Escape Room, but I think she's fantastic here. She is doing the heavy lifting. She is your focal character. She's the one through whose eyes you're exploring this whole world. And it's critical that you connect with her, and you do. She portrays this character as both incredibly vulnerable, but also very strong. And that's not the easiest line to ride. That is not the easiest thing to pull off. And she does it, and she makes it look easy. I find her very relatable, very likable. I care about the character. I want her to succeed, even when she's doing awful things, because she has a moral center. She has, a conscience, and so she's new to this world. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what she's doing. We don't really know what she's doing. We don't really know what this world's like either. So we're learning through her. And it's always good to have a focal character who's kind of taking the journey for us as an audience member. And she's gangbusters in the movie. She's really excellent. And then she's playing off of Timothée Chalamet, who is always good. He is one of the best actors of his generation already, even though he's so young. And I'm a fan. I'm a Chalamet fan. It doesn't mean that I like every movie that he's in. Looking at you, Call Me By Your Name. But I like him in the movies. He's good. He's always good, even if I'm not enjoying the movie. And he's doing this thing where he's playing a wounded but kind of edgy, maybe potentially dangerous guy. He's a little bit mysterious. It's very sexy, very interesting. And then, of course, as the layers kind of get peeled away, you really start to get into his character and his background. And it just kind of unfolds really nicely. And Chalamet plays it with a wonderful restraint, but also with a charisma, that charisma that he has that just kind of like it like radiates from him. And so the two of them together give you some really nice chemistry. And that's essential for this movie because the movie is hanging its hat on this romance. This movie is focused on them. And that's the thing. Luca likes to take his time telling a story. The other movies I mentioned he's done that I've seen are slower movies. They're longer movies. And this movie's a little long too. It's a little over 2 hours long, which for a horror movie, a little long. But for a romantic drama, not so much. And this is really leaning into that romantic drama aspect. And it's important because that's what the story is. That's what he wants to tell. But it's also what you want to see because you like these characters. You like their chemistry. You like their relationship. So you're into it. And Luca frames all of this with these beautiful shots, this beautiful scenery. That's kind of his calling card. Like in both the other movies, Suspiria and Call Me By Your Name, they're gorgeous movies. Even Call Me By Your Name, I didn't like the movie, but it's gorgeous. It is beautiful. And he does it all just kind of slowly. He has a very languid pace. In fact, some people might find this movie to be a little too slow for them. It is possible because Luca takes his time telling a story. And in this case, it works really well. A, because you want to spend time with these characters. You're just enjoying them being together. And B, because when the gore moments happen, they pop. They're shocking. They're visceral. You feel them. This movie can get really bloody. Icky in places is what Chris said, and he was right. They are icky. It gets pretty gory in some moments, and it's like I said, it's visceral. It hits you. You feel it. The first moment happens pretty early on when our lead character Taylor Russell is invited to a sleepover, girls' sleepover, and they're having this really wonderful moment that feels almost romantic. Her and one of her schoolmates, and then she bites her, and it's insane. And I didn't see it coming because I didn't know what this movie was about. And I loved it. I was in right away. So the way that Luca takes his time with the story lets these moments shine. It lets them like gut punch you. And it's very effective. And I have to tip my hat because it's his style of directing that just enhances those moments. They are fewer and far between, but they really, really work. What also really works is the world building in this movie. Yes, you've got essentially cannibals, but that word is never actually used in the movie. They called themselves eaters. And the concept of them is interesting. It's just these people who are compelled to eat human flesh. They have this overwhelming, impulse or compulsion to eat. They have to survive. And they don't really explain the origins of these people. Why are they the way they are? Where do they come from? They leave it as a mystery, and that's for the best. That was a wise idea. I don't need that backstory. I don't need the mythology spelled out for me. It's enough to know these people exist. They're kind of like a subculture, and they kind of have this whole culture, I guess, of how they interact with each other. They have these kind of rules in interacting with each other, and they can smell each other. That's how they identify each other. They can smell each other. And I thought that was really neat. That was really cool. I liked this whole aspect of, as Taylor Russell's meeting these other people and learning about herself and this culture and how some of these people, they eat because they have to, because they need to survive. And some people seem to just kind of enjoy it. They kind of enjoy what they are. and knowing which one you're dealing with is kind of paramount to your survival and safety. But I did like how this was like a club, if you will. Like by being one of these eaters, you were just kind of in the club, and there's like kind of this like this weird like respect. Like they would kind of just like pair up and do things for each other. But there was always like this underlying air of sinisterness to it. That again, I tip my hat to Luca. He's really nailing this. But he folds this mythology in this whole concept, this world building so seamlessly that it doesn't feel like it does in like say a fantasy movie or something like that, where it feels very heavy handed or like a lot. It just kind of feels natural. Like you're seeing it through Taylor Russell's eyes and you're just buying into this. And it really unfolds naturally, and it all is due to this wonderfully paced story. That again, maybe some people find it slow. I never did. I found it to be very compelling. I found it to be exactly what I wanted when I wanted it, and you know, like I said, those gore moves would pop out. It really was just a really well paced, well made, well acted, well directed movie. So does that make it syllabus worthy? Well, let's find out. So, is Bones and All syllabus worthy? For sure. Absolutely. It's definitely a perfect entry into the horror romance subgenre. And had I seen it, it probably would have actually forced its way onto the list, if at least as an extra credit, but probably as an actual entry on the syllabus because it's that good. I actually enjoy this movie quite a bit. And what's more, not only could it fit into the horror romance subgenre, but I would actually be tempted to also potentially try to fit it into a cannibal subgenre because if it's different. It's a different kind of cannibal mythology. It's not what you typically see in a cannibal movie. Now that one's a little tougher because there's some stiff competition in that subgenre. But the mythology that they've created in this movie, it feels so unique and fresh and cool to me that I would be tempted to put it there too. But it's an easy fit for me in horror romance for sure. Definitely a syllabus worthy entry. I like this one a lot. I enjoy this one quite a bit. I can see now what the buzz was about for this one. And I liked it in no small part because the leads are very, very good. And again, it's Chalamet. I have a lot of faith in Chalamet. I knew he'd be good. Taylor Russell was a bit of a revelation. Like I said, I thought she was good in Escape Room. She's excellent here, and I'd be down to see anything else she does because she's really good. These two leads carried this movie and made it wonderful. And I like the concept. I like the eaters. I like the whole mythology, the whole culture around them, and I like the whole horror romance aspect. We've seen this kind of thing before. Monsters falling in love kind of thing. This is done really, really well, taken extremely seriously, and done by really an excellent director, a really masterful director who knew exactly the story he wanted to tell and exactly how to tell it. Luca's 2 for 3 for me right now. I've only seen 3 of his movies, and 2 of them I thought were excellent. The third one was garbage. Call Me by Your Name, I just can't. I can't. We can talk about it in the comments if you really want to know, but like I did not like that movie. But the other 2, Suspiria, excellent. Surprisingly so, this one excellent, and I'm kind of glad I didn't know as much about it because this way it did sneak up on me. It did surprise me, but I think even knowing the premise and knowing a little bit about it, I think it still works. I want to watch it again because it's got a lot of layers and depth to it. There's a lot of stuff going on character wise, a lot of great character work. I didn't even mention Mark Rylance, who does some really great work here. But that's because I'm so focused on the couple, the lead couple, and they're so wonderful in this. There's a lot of great character work done in here. If you like character work, this is definitely one to check out. But if you just like cool cannibal movies, this is one that's kind of unlike anything you've ever seen. There's some stuff that's similar, but for the most part, I felt like this was a really fresh and original version of cannibalism, done in a really adult and wonderfully artistic way. So, high recommend from me. Definitely check it out. And now it's time to check out a horror trivia pursuit card. So, I'm gonna read one on camera like I always do. In this case, we're gonna go with the gore category because the gore in this movie, while not a ton of the runtime, it's really good. I thought it looked really, really good. So we're gonna go with the gore category. And the question is this: what horror novelist helped 1981's Evil Dead acquire a distributor? I don't know the answer to this question. Now, I know, Evil Dead's a classic movie, and it's a great movie. We've talked about it on the channel. I love it. I don't think I love it as much as like the real diehard fans do, but I do love me some Evil Dead. I love the first one better than the second one too, by the way, which is not necessarily the most popular of opinions. Here's the thing. I know there's some fun trivia about Evil Dead. There's some fun stuff about the making of it, because it was made on a shoestring budget by Sam Raimi with, Bruce Campbell's just friends making a horror movie. It's a great story. But I don't know all the details about it. I know about Joel Cohen. I know about that. But he's not the novelist I'm talking about here. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. I don't. I don't know enough about the making of Evil Dead to know the answer to this question off the bat. I don't. So I'm going to have to do some deductive reasoning here. And I have an idea of who I want to answer. It is the first thing that jumped in my head, and I'm probably going to stick with that because we all know that when I don't stick with my original answer, I talk myself out of the right answer. So I'm not going to do that. But it's really kind of technically a shot in the dark for me. And I'm guessing a lot of you are big Evil Dead fans, and you probably know the answer to this question, and that's awesome. And if you want to tell me in the comments some stories or things like that, by all means, like I said, I should delve into the Evil Dead lore a little bit more because it is cool stuff. For people who want to be like aspiring filmmakers, something like that, it's got to be a really uplifting and encouraging, motivating story to see the level of success achieved with just a can-do spirit, right? So, and apparently with like some motivation from or support from a horror novelist. And so go ahead and wrap it up. Let's wrap it up and lock in your answers. I'm going to take a guess, and it is a guess. I don't know, but I'm going to use some deductive reasoning here. A horror novelist, 1981. The first thing that leaps to my mind is Stephen King. Stephen King, because he's famous at that point. He would have the juice to help an indie director make get a movie out there. The question is, I don't know of any connection between Stephen King and Sam Raimi. I don't really know there being a connection, especially at that time. So it's just shot there. But I can't think of anybody else. I don't think it would be like Clive Barker at that time, and I don't really know. And I thought about Robert Bloch maybe, but again, same problem. I don't really know the connection. And I'm just going to go Stephen King. That was my first guess, Stephen King. Let's take a look at the answer. Stephen King. Stephen King. So hey, I pulled that one out, but like I said, I guess the most famous horror author of all time. But go with your gut, right? I went with my gut. I got it right. I'm guessing a lot of you knew it though. And like I said, fill me in on this story about that. How does Stephen King get involved with this? I don't know the answer to that. So let me know how that happened. Let me know if you've got any other cool recommendations. Thank you, Chris, for this recommendation. It's fantastic. I'm pretty happy with this one. And we've had a couple movies that weren't great, and we just started to get back into the ones that I've been really enjoying. So thanks again for recommendations. Keep them coming. And until next week when we do something completely different, class dismissed.